Discussions with Dr. D. I'm super excited that I'm back with you all. It's been a little while, and hey, I want to go ahead and jump right on in. We are a few days out from Thanksgiving, a few weeks out from Christmas and the New Year. While everybody is planning celebrations and family dinners, there are some people who may not be planning anything at all. There are some people who may not have been invited to a dinner. There's some people who may have been invited to some celebrations, but are not quite in the best mood to go. So they're contemplating whether or not they want to be around people or whether they even want to be invited anywhere. And for that reason, today's episode is about mental health and the holidays. Have you ever felt like it's another Thanksgiving, another Christmas, another New Year's without that special loved one? Have you ever felt like, well, since the divorce last year, I've been feeling lonely. My kids are back and forth between parents, and so this year my ex has the kids, and so my holidays won't be as joyful. Or maybe you're that person that was working that career for 20 plus years. Just a few months ago, the company decided, hey, we're going to downsize so we don't need your services or your work anymore. And so now you're at the holidays and you got those kids with their beautiful eyes looking up at you, and you're wondering to yourselves how you're going to make ends meet. If you fit in that category, I'm not saying that you're diagnosed with some type of mental illness, but what I am saying is that your mental health is very, very important to assess during times like the holidays. Situations and occurrences such as anxiety and depression tend to peak around the holiday time. And so what I did is I actually spoke with a licensed professional counselor for this episode. And she is my special guest today. So I want to go ahead and jump right in so that we can talk about what is considered mental illness or mental health concerns, and why is it important to talk about these things around the holidays. Stay tuned. I'll be right back with my special guest. Hi guys, today we have Katrina Williams on the show. She is the owner of Connecting Dots Counseling LLC right here in the beautiful city of Columbia, South Carolina. And I have her on the show today because we're going to be talking about mental health and the holidays. The different things that we all go through, during the holidays, we all experience like different things, whether it's a loss of a loved one, a divorce, moving away from family, whatever it is, there are different things that we all have to deal with during the holidays. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Katrina today, because one, she's a professional at this. I am not. And I wanted her to share, just some tidbits and even some information so that everybody is properly informed on what mental health really is, and also the effect that it can have on people during the holidays. So Katrina, can you tell us a little bit about what mental health really is?
Well, it's a vast array of disorders. I guess about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, we started doing things a little differently. We would, in coding, we would say Axis 1. I know this probably means nothing to you all, but just to be clear, there will be an Axis 1 and Axis 2. Axis 1 is all of your depression, anxiety, PTSD, any of the emotional problems that people may come in and need to talk about. Most of the people that I see, they're either going through life changes, adjustment disorders, just adjusting to stressors, new job, a loss of a job, loss of the grief. And then there's this Axis 2, and I like to tell people I don't deal with Axis 2 because I'm in this office by myself. Those are the personality disorders. Okay. So your borderline personalities, we hear a lot about the just personality disorders that will typically be with the person for a duration of time. Like you can have depression and have bouts of depression and it'll go away. There are certain tools or techniques that we can use for anxiety, but when you start talking about some of the more severe personality disorders, disorders that people will be in treatment, the schizophrenia, like long-term, treatment, you have to be on medication. Those type disorders typically you will see like in an institution, those people will be institutionalized. We hear a lot about the narcissistic. It's become very a catchy word with certain people with narcissistic personalities. They think it's all about them, but that's really a disorder. It's really a disorder, and even though some people may have variations of narcissism, but that's a real thing, and they really believe that it is about them, that others are less than, and neurologically they believe that's what and how it is.
That's interesting that you even bring up narcissism. I actually just read an article maybe today or yesterday. It's just been that recent when I was just looking into like different things, what's new about mental health. And one of the things that came up was that narcissism fell in the category of mental health disorders that really affect our millennial generation. And so I thought that was interesting that they were pretty much categorizing specific mental health disorder to a specific generation.
Because they're different.
Yeah, they are quite different.
They're different. They really
Quite
do
different.
believe, it, because you know what it is? They can fact check everything.
Every single
Back
thing.
in the day, if we were told something, we took it, blind obedience. They can no, that's not right. They're fact checking you as you're talking.
Absolutely.
So would that not give you this whole notion that I know and you don't?
Right.
It does give that illusion, I guess, of knowing and you're beneath me, or I know more than you, or it's about me. It's just all about me. So I can see that. I didn't read that. I didn't know that, but I can definitely see that.
Yeah,
with that particular generation.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense to what you're saying because when you said narcissism is a real thing, that was something that either you snarled at narcissism or you celebrated narcissism, depending on the culture and the environment that you were raised up in. And so to find out that it was actually where someone has mentally said to themselves and believe that they are correct about in their own mind. Like that's a real mental health issue. So so for those of you who celebrate narcissism, hey, you may want to take a relook at that.
Pull up the DSM-5 and read it from that standpoint, and it's not as glamorous.
Absolutely. Wow. I'm telling you, we're learning already. We're digging deep and we haven't even gotten in all the way yet. But the second thing that I wanted to ask, and it kind of brings us right into the point of this show, is why is it important to talk about mental health disorders during the holidays?
Well, when you think about, let's say, grief or loss, and we think about the holidays, we normally equate family memories around the holidays. So if it's, mama or dad was here last year, this is a time where families come together, and now we're having to be together. This is a new norm because our loved one isn't here. Or if you were working in a particular city and you had a job and that job isn't there any longer, and now you've been relocated and you're estranged and you're around people that you don't know. You're gonna grieve and during a time of the year where everybody's having a good time and everybody's celebrating, but in your heart you're sad. So I think it's important to talk about those times, or talk about the emotions of people who may be grieving, who may be going through depression. It's important because we don't want them to be isolated.
Absolutely.
I've had clients who, a particular client, she lost her son. And we would talk about, so what are you going to do that first year? What are you going to do? Let's talk. What are you going to do? And so part of her, she wanted to get home edge. Like, I don't want to be around family. If I want to break down, I want to be able to break down by myself. And I said to her, what about this? So what about that morning you dedicate that to your son? But that evening, please, go spend time with your family, with friends, with someone, or with the people who are grieving him as well.
Absolutely.
And she agreed. Because depending on your particular temperament, there are four of them, right?
Okay.
Well, there are four quads. If you Google temperament, you can come up with like a plethora of tests. I'm pretty practical, pretty simple, so I keep mine very simple.
Okay.
The ones that I use are talkers, doers, thinkers, and watchers. Real simple,
Okay.
right? And for the talkers, they're very bubbly. People are typically drawn to them. We have to watch out for talkers. Let's say if they've lost a loved one, we want to keep an eye on them, especially if they seem to be a little withdrawn, because that's not their natural way, you know. So for the talker temperament that's grieving, we want to probably go and give them a call and, hey, we need you to come over here and to do da 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 da, you know, whatever it is, so that they can feel needed, because they'll just kind of draw back, and we'll notice, but won't say anything because they're so bubbly.
Right.
Surely they're fine.
Right.
And for the thinkers, they'll try to rationalize, well, I need to be busy and I need to. So sometimes my thinkers, I have to say, hey, it's okay. It's okay to grieve. And one thing about grief, it takes us to the door of the pain. So it hurts when you've lost anything, a loved one, a job, going through divorce, separation during this time, when you're used to your family being together and they're not, everybody's a little estranged. That's hard and it's painful, and that's exactly what grief does. And oftentimes, human nature is not to feel the pain. Who wants to go to pain?
Yeah, we
you
avoid
go
it
to the
at all
door
costs.
I don't want to go to the door, but that's where grief, and oftentimes, depending on that particular temperament, doers will just work themselves out of a frenzy. I'm not feeling anything.
Absolutely.
I mean, they don't feel anyways. Like that's
Right.
That's my primary. I can speak candidly about doers. It's like we have to stop. Like I tell people, the tender comes on me. Some people tend to live on them. It rests on me.
Right.
So I have to make myself like stop and connect and feel, because I'm about the business of getting it done.
Absolutely.
Right? And for the watchers, you have to be careful, because they're kind of chill, laid back, cool, calm, collected, and you wouldn't know if anything's bothering them. So for each temperament will present different. There's some temperaments that they would be suffering and in the throes of pain, and you wouldn't know unless you sit and have a conversation with them, because they'll just mask it. So I think the question was, why do we need to talk about it during this time? Because the world is celebrating. You know, the world is happy, and we're shopping, and but they're not.
Right.
They're sad on the inside, so we don't want to leave anybody behind. So yes, especially if you know that there's a loss, check in on those people. Give them that space to maybe pay homage or to have that time, but not to be isolated from people.
I really, really, really love your answer. One of the reasons why I love her answer so much is because you covered everybody. Like, your answer wasn't necessarily a one size fits all. It's, these are the different things that works for the one who's a talker, or for the one who's a doer. And I know plenty of those people who, and I think is almost synonymous with our culture,
Right.
where we work through the pain.
Right.
And so we just continue to find things to do to avoid even dealing with feeling.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, we have the thinkers. And I like the fact that I don't think that this is just information that you can utilize with like adults that you know, but you also need to be mindful of children.
Yes.
Who are specifically dealing with loss during, you know, this particular time of the year, because just like mom or dad or grandma or whomever is experiencing that loss, if there's a child involved, that child is experiencing that same amount of loss.
Absolutely. And children are a little interesting, especially, well, boys and girls grieve a little different. Boys take information in like in increments, right? Children across the board But boys, they may drop something or hint of dis-ease, sadness, and you won't pick up on anything again until maybe a month or two,
Absolutely.
sometimes a year later.
Yeah.
They grieve, and then that translates into men.
Yeah.
Right? So they grieve in increments. Oftentimes as women, when we do it, like we'll go in and it's hard, or a lot of times I'll hear it described, and even I have experienced it as a wave. Like those waves are calm.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you don't know when they're
Right.
gonna come. Like they're just come for you.
Yes, they will.
And healthy grieving says, I go with the wave, and it's okay. There's another generational thing, I think, or cultural thing, is we have to be strong. What in the world is that?
Oh, that
You
is
know,
so
what is
good.
to
Oh,
be
that's
strong?
so good.
No.
Oh, dig into that.
Yes, and I tell my clients, I said, this is the rule. You can fall apart. Just make sure when you assemble, put your arm where your arm go, put your legs where your legs. I mean, come back right
That's
now.
really good.
But it's okay to fall apart, and you do it simultaneously. You live, you fall apart, and you come back. You assemble. You live, you fall apart, you come back, and you assemble. That's healthy grieving, because to think that you can lose a loved one, to think that you can work on this job for 20, 25 years and you've been displaced, and you're okay?
Yeah.
No, that's just not the human way.
It's
You're not
not.
okay. You have to fall apart. Give yourself that time. I said, fall apart, get in your car, go down 26, wind the windows down, let the sunroof down, and just,
That's it.
get it
Get
out.
it out.
Get it out. Talk to your loved ones. Mom, I love you so much. Dad, I love you. I miss you. You know, get it out. Get it out. And I don't feel, just because that person is no longer with us physically, it doesn't mean that our relationship has to end.
That's so good. That's so really, really good. Like you said, so much of a mouthful. I love the fall apart.
Yeah.
I can literally, like, when you give the
In the
analogy of
floor.
the body, like, you can just literally fall apart. Just put the arm back where it belongs.
Assemble correctly.
Assemble correctly. Don't just come back.
Yeah. Like,
Right.
we should not know. We should not have known that you fell apart and you did not assemble correctly.
Absolutely. Put yourself back together.
Yeah, come on.
But you have permission to fall apart.
Yes.
Like, literally, because as she stated, losing a mom or a dad or a child or a
Yes.
job or having to be relocated, because a lot of people don't talk about this, military families who often have to
Yes.
relocate it, be
Yes.
away from family. Like, it's really okay to not be, I am woman, hear me roar, or I am man, I have to be strong. But you really can have a moment
Yes.
and say, I'm tired.
Because then when you do that, when you roar, the next time it's louder, it's greater. I think you gain strength. I call the tears there. Let the healing rivers flow. Like, there's a reason why there are holes at the end of those tear ducts, because we release all kinds of chemicals, and I mean, we release so much in the tear. So yes, by all means, fall apart. So when you roar, the next time it's greater, it's stronger, it's louder. I mean, that's just what we do when we physically aren't with the ones that we love.
Yeah. That's really, really good. I love all of these examples. Like, I really just want to dig further. What can you share with the audience who are, let's say, they're family members of an individual who is going through some maybe personal grief, or it could be, you know, if it's a divorce, it's usually affecting that person and their individual small knit family. But then when they're around other people, like, you know, what are some things that we can do you know, to help family members who are, and I know you shared some things earlier, but you know, we're coming up on Thanksgiving in a few days, and Christmas is right around the corner, New Year's is right there, and then of course, not just these holidays per se, but you have Valentine's Day and just Mother's Day, Father's Day, like it comes around, like it never ends, you know. So what can we do like to assist with the grieving process with other family members?
Validate those emotions. It's okay. I remember, so I had, she's a church member, and she took her baby to daycare.
Okay.
And when she went to pick her baby up, he died.
Oh my God.
And I got in the bed with her, and I held her, and we cried. That's what we did. I had no words. What do you say?
What do you say?
I was in the moment with her. I just held space with her. And she lamented, and so did I. I was just in that space with her. And so, what do you do with loved ones? How do you help them? You check on them. You let them know, listen, you don't have to be strong around me.
Yeah.
It's okay. Grieve, cry, take a moment. Like, it's okay. It's okay. So be that voice that says, it's okay. It's okay to cry. And typically a lot of people are like, oh no, we don't want them to get upset. But typically the upset lasts, it's a wave.
Right.
It's a wave. And you may be at dinner, Thanksgiving dinner, and somebody will say something and they'll break down. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And no sooner than that wave comes, it's gone. I think that should be allowed.
That's so good. There were like three main things that I pulled out of what you said. One of the things you said, validate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, validate that person and allow them to also validate those emotions by being in the moment with that person. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you sort of said that you did, but you didn't specifically say that you did it, you just told a story. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that she said she did was she had no words. And it's okay to sometimes be in the moment with the person without having something to say.
That's right.
It's really okay. The awkward silence is really okay.
It's okay.
It's really
because
okay.
they can feel when you're there. And if you're okay with I'm just okay with being there.
Yeah.
And I think that's the greatest gift.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when we'll say, I have clients that it's like, if somebody ask me again, how am I doing? I'm just gonna lose it, right?
Yeah.
How do you think I'm doing?
Right.
Right? So it's like, don't just
just hug.
Like those embrace, they just go a long ways. They're heartfelt. Because these are matters of the heart.
They are matters of the heart.
And so it's just so heartfelt, and oftentimes I'll be in the session and I'll just sit and I'll hold space, because we don't know when those waves come.
Absolutely.
But I think they need to be honored.
I do love the fact that you said not only validated but honored. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes I think we, especially those of us that are not familiar with coping techniques and just different things of that nature, because we either don't work in the field or we just don't know. A lot of times we try to say something because we want the person to feel better. Mm-hmm. We don't want them to be in this space, but that space has to be honored.
I'm in there. I don't know what to say.
Right.
I'm in it. And I don't force you. You just have to be in that space, because sometimes in the space you'll know what to say if it's something to say.
That's really good.
But I think the greatest, you get instructions from the space.
Yes. Oh, that's good. You get instructions from the space. Mm-hmm. I love that, because I've actually experienced that before, where, and actually both sides, where when we were silent, I was given instructions as far as what to do or say. Yep. And I've also been in those moments where I know I've said too much and it just didn't register. Where that was just not the right thing to say at that time. Because you can feel it. You're like, no, that wasn't right. This is not a time for that. And so, but also being still is so good. Like, there's so much that can come out of that silence, and instruction is really what you need.
Yes.
Because you're dealing with not only a person's heart, but sometimes even the deafness of their soul, depending on the depth of the wound, depending on what this loss was and what was attached to this loss. Like, so it's a sobering moment, so that you really can hear from a divine source, because it's the only way you're gonna really get it to really know how to assist that person in that moment. So that's so really good.
That's right.
So good. I really, again, we can stay here all day. But I want to ask like one more question, because a lot of things that we talked about can be applicable, individually with our families. As a community, why is it important for us to continue to have a conversation about mental health, not just specifically around the holidays, but like ongoing things, like the things that we do in our jobs? We work with people who are dealing with different mental health issues. We work out with people who are dealing with different mental health issues, because we're always constantly interacting with someone, and we don't always know their stories.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah.
This world is so, I've been doing this for about 24 years.
Wow.
Right?
So great.
So when I started back in like 95, this world that we live in it's a different world. So when we turn on the news, I mean, you're talking about the Twin Tower happened. It's a heightened sense of fear. Just our entire world. We are so infiltrated with fear. We can 96, 95, I could not pull anything up on my phone. I mean, we had cell phones that was in a bag.
Right.
I couldn't pull up anything on my phone and look at the news. I can get in my car and listen to MSNBC in my car live, right? So it's like we're getting fear pumped into us over and over and over. So the root of anxiety is fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I have clients that come in and say, Katrina, I just had a panic attack all out of the blue. No, it wasn't out of the blue.
That's so good.
It's because we're not attentive, and everything is so common.
Right.
The news, the fear, you go to the theater, they're shooting the theaters up, you shooting the schools up, like everything is just so common. You hear about somebody shooting something up, I hear it, and like it's almost like I have to stop and say, whoa, let me pray.
Yeah.
Because you hear it, it's a common thing.
It's too common.
It should not be common.
Right, at all.
Right?
Ever.
And so remember when I was talking about the temperament? There's certain temperaments that they don't take too well to this world of fear. The thinkers, they're going to process, they're very deep. They do everything on we all think as humans.
Right.
But thinkers think on such a deep and intrinsic level until they'll hear something in the conscious realm, and subconsciously, like them in the press conference, they down there and they're dissecting, and they're not even aware of the level of fear that they're ingesting. They're just taking it in.
Absolutely.
And so we have anxiety I mean, people are coming. I don't particularly recommend medication right off for anxiety, because there are too many tools that we can use. Just simply calming ourselves down. Breathing is really big. I'm real big on breathing, forceful breathing. I go up to like an hour myself, and you talk about peace. It's so addictive. And so I train people in how to calm themselves down within.
That's really good.
And so, but if it gets too bad, then we have to recommend medication. Depression, typically when I'm talking to a client, just because of, again, either if you're looking at what's going on in the world and you're looking back and saying, oh my goodness, I have so many regrets.
Absolutely.
I didn't do this, and I'm looking at Facebook and I see all my friends and they're
So
accomplished and they have children and I don't have any kids and that clock is ticking.
Listen.
So they're going back, and that's so depressing.
And it's happening to everybody, whether you are verbalizing it
Yes.
or whether you are ingesting it and it's just a part of your subconscious. And like she said, I love the analogy. It's almost like you're having a board meeting
Yes.
within yourselves,
Yes.
and before you know it, you're at this panic attack or that at this anxiety level, and you're like, it just came out of nowhere. No, it didn't just come out of nowhere.
You've been entertaining that. You've been
For quite
meditating
some
on that
time.
for a while.
Absolutely.
So when we look back to lament, we become very depressed.
Absolutely.
And if we look too far ahead with the what ifs
Right.
and anticipation, we get scared.
We get
Why
scared.
wouldn't you?
Right.
We're in Monday. You floating out on next Friday. It's not a next Friday out there. It doesn't exist. That's obscurity. You better be scared. Like you out there and there's nothing beneath you.
Absolutely.
But you turning it, trying to figure it out. That's scary.
It's very scary.
You know? And so that's the world again that we live in. 20 years ago, there was no Facebook that we can look at and say, oh my God, look. And we all post what's good.
Exactly.
That ain't our real
That's
life.
not the real life.
Those are snippets. Those
Yeah.
are the proud moments.
Right. The proud
that we are
moments.
posting. But, and I'll tell people, I see families and they look so well put together. If you were to see them out at Target, you'd be like, oh my God. No.
Right.
No, them and all of us.
Right.
Have our vices. We all
Absolutely.
have our vices and our ills. So oftentimes people look at certain social medias and become so down and so depressed because I think comparison is one of the greatest self-abusive tactics that we can ever to compare with another.
Absolutely. Heard someone say it this way, like comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh,
Like
yes.
it literally
Yes.
comes to rob.
yes.
It literally comes to take, and it's taking something.
Yes.
So if you do the reverse psychology on comparison, and you're like, wait, if you're coming to take something, then that means I have something.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's like, well, wait a minute, let's flip
Absolutely.
this thing.
That's
Let
exactly
me
right.
do an investment of what I have to find out, wait a minute, there's no need to compare because what I have is enough.
There is no comparison.
There is no
You're
comparison.
it. You're
Like
the only one. You're an original.
Absolutely.
And so are they. We're all originals.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
I think those are some really good measures of advice, because I actually teach a course at a college, and we were talking about the awkwardness of socialism because of the push in our society, or I would say the celebration of social media. So now we were actually having a discussion in class where people are becoming more comfortable socializing online versus when they're sitting face to face with people. We were looking at the dynamics of this generation and how many of them, when we did a survey, prefer to have dialogue, even from a dating perspective, through a social media site before they actually step out and go meet the person face to face. So we are definitely in a day and time where we have to remember that we are human. Like all of the different things that we face are very similar. It doesn't matter what background you come from,
That's
what
right.
race, whatever your religious beliefs are. As a human being, we're going to experience loss, grief. We're going to experience change, drastic change, subtle changes. And one of the things that we really gotta keep having the conversation about is helping those who may be in situations where they're really trying to process through those types of things. Have face-to-face conversations. If you have a family member who's expressed grief, like the text message may work one day, or reaching out through social media may work sometimes, but actually go sit and have a conversation with that person to find out exactly what their needs are.
That's right.
It could simply be the fact that they needed someone to talk with face to face.
That's right. Or this.
Or just a touch.
You can't do that through text.
You cannot do it through any device.
Listen, our human effect. You can't do that.
It's irreplaceable.
I remember I lost my grandmother, and she was with us for a long time. She's like 98, so we were blessed, right?
Beautiful, beautiful life.
But I remember just having one of those moments, and I was walking into my church, and a sister just kind of grabbed me and hugged. I didn't know that I needed that.
Wow.
Because if I knew I needed it, I can just go get it.
Right.
I just didn't know. I didn't even know to say, can somebody just hug me?
Right.
And it was something about her hug. She was an older lady. So something about her hug that put me with my grandmother.
That's right. It's irreplaceable. That
So,
human
yeah,
touch.
so we have to check in. We have to be tangible,
Yeah.
touchable
So good.
with our people, especially during this time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Katrina, you have been more than helpful. I don't know the word for it, but I do want to thank you for your time.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you for your wealth of knowledge and information, for sharing with not only me, but the community that comes to watch discussions with Dr. D, those who will see it when it posts, those who will see it later on in life. I mean, this information is invaluable. We're trying to help people. Essentially, that's what she does with her job. That's what I do, with my career. Like, we're essentially trying to help people. And so, in order to help people, we got to know the facts and figures of what's happening around us and what's happening with people who are around us. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Ms. Williams, again, for being on Discussions with Dr. D. And until next time, you guys, don't forget to click like and subscribe so that you can keep up with all things discussions.